All right, you guys, welcome back to day four. Day four already, becoming the CEO week. And today we're talking about how to optimize your actions to align with your vision and results. So, all week we've been talking about a whole bunch of different things about how to plan, how to get ahead of things, how to deal with challenges, how to manage yourself, how to do all of these different things. And today we want to kind of get into a little bit more nitty gritties. The other day, we talked about goal setting and how important it is to set your goals based on activity as well as your revenue. So, we're going to dive a little bit more into that today and what that really looks like, and then how you can use your activities and your numbers, which you need to know, in order to start creating predictability in your business. So, welcome back, Brian.
Hello, good
Always,
morning.
always awesome to have you. This week has been so much fun for us. And
Yeah.
I hope it's been really valuable and helpful for all of you guys as well. So let's dive in. So we're talking again about the actions to help you align with your vision and results. And so when we talk about your actions and we talk about the activities that you need to do, what we're talking about here is primarily how you are connecting with people in the first place. Because when you start to track your numbers in your business, this is going to help you to understand what it takes in order to get the result that you're looking for. And the very first step in all of that is creating connections. So that's going to be the biggest thing we're going to talk about. But I want to talk about what those other numbers are first so we can kind of get them out of the way. So if you guys are not tracking numbers in your business yet, then I want you to write this down. So the numbers that you're going to keep track of are your connections, how many people you're reaching out to. You're going to track how many conversations you're actually getting into. You're going to track how many calls you book, right? These are connection calls, these are sales calls. How many calls are you booking? How many people actually show up to those calls? And then how many people actually join your program? Now, it may not be exactly linear that way. There might be different things that happen in between each of those steps and stuff like that. But those are the main numbers because ideally, what you want is to be able to go, okay, when I reach out to 100 people, I end up talking to 30 of them. I'm making up the number, so hopefully this works out. I end up talking to 30 of them, maybe 8 or 10 of them book a call, 7 or 8 of them show up, and maybe 2 or 3 of them become my client, right? So then you can start going, okay, when I reach out to 100 people, I end up with 2 or 3 clients. So we want to start to create this pattern where you can see how much activity it takes in order to get to the right number of clients that you're looking for. And so one of the most important things that we need to do in our businesses every day, no matter what, at any level of your business, is be generating leads. So, of course, down the road, you might add in paid leads and running, Facebook ads, LinkedIn ads, whatever else ads that you want to generate more leads more quickly. But at the beginning, and I actually think all the way through, you should also be doing organic lead generation. Anything to jump in with so far here?
We'll probably get into it in a bit, but like for me, this was a massive challenge for me at first because um, you know, just all the numbers is kind of overwhelming. Um, Especially if like if you're normally an introvert and stuff and maybe you finally get down and sit down, buckle down, and start reaching out to some people. But then, well, the good news is they start responding back. At first you're like worried, what if they never respond? What if they ignore me? Whatever. And like, well, that sucks, but like when they do start responding too, then it's a whole other like now I got to respond to them and reply to them and stuff, right? So it can be overwhelming. So try
Yeah.
to make it as simple as possible. There's apps for this, there's all these other things, but even if that gets more complicated for you, just start with a spreadsheet or something. Just start somewhere
Yeah.
and just begin the process. Because once you get going, it's like a muscle
Yeah.
and you'll start to strengthen that muscle and find systems that work for you.
Yeah, absolutely. So I want to just say the numbers one more time and what you guys need to be tracking, and then we're going to dive into that first step, which is connecting with people. So the very first step is how many connections are you making? How many reach outs are you doing? How many people are you meeting? The second one is how many actual conversations are you getting into? The third one is then going to be how many calls are you booking or meetups are you booking? The next one is going to be how many people are actually showing up to those meetings because sometimes people don't show and we have to be ready for that. And then the last one is how many people join your actual program because on the call, ideally, you are making the offer to join your program. So there may be, we'll probably get into this, but some of those calls might also be connection calls where the goal is not to get that person into your program, but to connect with them because maybe they know someone, right? And then the goal is to book the someone that they know. So there could be that as well. And we can talk a little bit about those like nuances, but those are basically the numbers you guys need to know so that you can go into a month and go, I need 5 clients. I need to talk to 150 people. How am I going to make that happen? Right? So let's talk about how to make that happen. So we've actually been super active this week, more than usual. We are consistently connecting with people and doing DMs and all that stuff. But this week has been like a beefy week for networking and connections. So maybe let's start with that, Brian. Like maybe talk about what we've done this week and some of the different options people have.
Well, it started also with we had one of our recorded meetings and we're looking at numbers and data,
Yeah,
right? And based on how things have looked in the last month, um, you could have good months, you get bad months, or I wouldn't say bad months, but you could have high output months where there's lots of results, and there's other months where you're like, what happened, right? So we had a couple of those meetings, and it resulted in us. First, there was a bit of just a sitting down for a little bit and going, wow, this is like overwhelming,
yeah,
because it was a slower month.
yeah.
Um, but then
There's always
we went into problem solving mode.
yeah,
And I just recently returned to a networking event online on Wednesdays. I'm gonna be going there every other week. I
yeah,
invited you into the group too. So now we're going double duty in that space, and they are recognizing us as partners that work together,
yeah,
right? Um, and right away, that was probably like 30 people right out of the gate yesterday morning
yeah,
before I went to put in my longest day at the school, right?
yeah,
You continue doing your work and stuff. Then when we got home, we went out to an in-person event, which
yeah,
was like another 20 people, right? And it was fun, it was organic, and we made those connections inside both of those spaces. So,
yeah,
if we do that every week or every other week, like, I mean,
yeah,
that's already like way, and people are catching our vibe, understanding our brand and what we're doing.
yeah,
So it's exciting. This is the other thing that's really beneficial with this is to have conversations with people that may not even be like a potential client lead or someone that's going to hire you for your services or whatever, just to be able to talk about it and have them, respond to your
yeah,
passion and your excitement.
yeah,
That is important to activate that part in you. That's because
yeah,
that's going to help you continue to move forward and feel that there's value to this. There's a mission here. I have a purpose, and I'm getting feedback from people, right? So
yeah.
it works at so many multiple levels, not just generating leads, but this is actually what results in these opportunities. Another thing to just share with the numbers is when I was working with you originally in the beginning of my business and with another coach, I was constantly, every time we got on calls, I was I was being asked like, so what are your numbers at?
Yeah.
What's going on with your revenue? What's going on with, how many leads do you have and stuff? And I would sometimes start out in the very beginning with, I have nothing. I'm broke. I got, I was in that negative space, right? And he goes, well, what's been going on, right? And then when we started running the numbers, I was like, oh, it's actually not that bad.
Oh, I have so much to say right now.
And it's because and that's why the data is so important because it's facts.
Yes.
So you're basing your how you feel, you're basing your actions, you're basing your next steps on real facts, regardless of
Oh my God.
how good or bad you feel in the moment,
Yeah.
because your business doesn't care about how
Yeah.
you feel. Your business
Yeah.
only cares about its life force, which is the numbers that keep it alive, right? So that's something to consider as well.
Oh my God. I have so much to say right now. Okay, remind me to come back to the knowing the data and knowing exactly what the numbers actually are without going on feeling that we have to go on the actual data. Remind me to come back to that.
Mhm.
So, first, I wanted to talk about this week because you've said a whole bunch of stuff in there that I think is really important to highlight. So, number one is not only did we go to an online event and an in person, but okay, I actually went to an in person one last week as well, which was also great, a different one. And the last piece is we are hosting our own event today in our house. So every month
Yeah.
we host suburban co-working retreats. That's what we call them. The goal is for people to come and basically hang out in the house. That's the like suburban part because we live in
Mhm.
north of like a bit north of Toronto in suburbia land. So the suburban, but co-working and retreat is obviously we want to make it feel like easy and chill and relaxed. And Brian does like a meditation or some kind of energy clearing or something like that. And then everybody also does some co-working. So that's what we do. But what was awesome was that yesterday when we went to the in-person event, which we got to go to together, which we haven't gotten to do that before actually, in person, we got to go together and we ended up sitting right next to somebody who is a coach. And so it was so perfect. And we were like, what are you doing tomorrow? And he's actually coming to our house today. So this is how quickly things can happen. And we made a bunch of other connections too. And Brian actually met someone last night as well who could be a one-to-one client. So you just never know who's going to show up and what's going to happen. And I think, as Brian said, like energetically, because it's giving us more of an opportunity to talk about what we do, to tell people, to get the word out there, like that worth like oh, I know I am. I'm sure you are too, but I'll ask you anyways. Like I am feeling this like pull and this excitement around what we're doing, getting that reaction from people to be like, wow, like I've never heard of that. You guys have an online co-working space. We've never heard of that. That's super cool, right? So I think sometimes, like when we work online, we forget that we can also use in person to drive online business, right? And a lot of people get stuck in wanting to be fully online and never have to be in person and not have to go anywhere and not have to do all that stuff and thinking that it's all going to be automated and it's all going to be like that, but it isn't. And meeting people in person, like by far 100% is always going to get you to build relationships faster when you're with them every single time. And one of my mentors, John Goodman, a phenomenal business guy in the fitness space, if you're not familiar with him, he always says, like, get known in your community first. Be like the go-to person in your community first. And he says, for 99% of online trainers, and this applies to all coaches, that being on social media is not what's going to get you your clients. And that is so powerful because this guy is running a multi-million dollar business online, right? And but this is our feeling as well, right? It's like meet the people in person. Go get out there, tell people what you do, allow yourself to get that feedback of someone saying, "Oh, that's super cool. I've never heard of that." Right? Or I don't know anybody who does that. Maybe they've heard of it, but they don't know anyone who does that. Or, "Oh, actually, I have a friend who could probably use you." Right? Or I can use you. So I think that there is so much value in doing the in person stuff. And I can tell you that, at least for me, I feel so energized the last 2 weeks just from being in person. What about you, Bri?
Yeah, I can't stress enough the excitement piece because when we're working with our clients and they're some of them are the very beginning stages of starting their new group or starting to meet people or just very new to the DMs, I
Yeah.
tell them you're going to learn how to create a system around getting yourself ready to do this work. And I keep emphasizing you have to find the excitement in what you're doing.
Yeah.
When you're excited about it, whether you have a date coming up, a virtual event coming up, or
Yeah.
something you're working on or launching, and there's
Yeah.
a deadline,
Yeah.
when you can get excited about it, it's
So good.
more interesting and exciting to reach out to people to tell them about it, right? And it's like I wrote down in the note my notes here is like it's a switch in your context. It's a switch in your way of being, right? The last networking event I did just before everything went into lockdown in 2020, I still had anxiety going into in-person events, and I sat in my car prior to the event, and I thought, who do I need to be today to get this result that I'm looking for? Because I wrote
Yeah.
down my goals and results for that event, and I came up with this idea that I have to be who I'm going to be today is excited about other people.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
was my context. And then when I went in, my body language and the way I was responding to people and everything was excited about other people. And
Yeah.
then I noticed in that event, people just started coming to me
Mm.
and introducing themselves and telling me their story. And then they said, "Wow, like you're really knowledgeable and you know, we got to connect and collaborate and stuff." And
Yeah.
I'm thinking, I didn't even say anything.
Right.
I just listened and I was
That is,
excited about them. And
yeah.
so try these different things on too. Try on different ways of showing up in
Yeah.
the online space, but also in the in-person space,
Yeah.
just to see what kind of results you get and making those connections.
Yeah, I love that. That's so good. And I think like even as we've been talking to people about the Becoming the CEO program in the last like 6 weeks or so, we've been so excited about it. And so it's so easy to tell people about it because that energy is in us, naturally.
Yeah.
So that's so great. And I think too, like when I started doing more networking. I actually, we both have this story. We used to go to this other networking community that we both didn't really feel was a fit and wasn't really our jam. And so in 2018, I'm sure a lot of you guys know this, but in 2018, I started hosting curated dinner parties. And by bringing people together, I just became a little bit more known. I was doing it with my best friend, Lisa, at the time. We're still best friends. We just don't do the dinners anymore. But we were hosting these curated dinners, and they at the time we didn't have a business. We were just doing the dinners, right? And we just wanted to bring people together, and they were fun and they were amazing. And we, had themes around them, whether it was like real estate or coaches or female entrepreneurs or whatever it was. And that just gave us this sort of like leverage in the community, like made us into leaders. So I think it's like not only going to the event and it's in person and online that you can find different networking events. There are some groups where you can, paid Facebook groups a lot of the time have some networking events and stuff like that too. So there's lots of places to find them. But I think like when you put yourself in a position to be an authority figure in your community, that can be huge. And it's also such an easy way to go from being at an event where you meet someone to getting people into an event because you're hosting it. So that's like a
Yeah.
really cool piece to have in order to make this happen.
Yeah, I think too, I wrote down choose a path in an area that is a fit for you as well. Like for example, I found that when I was growing up, when I was, a teen, early 20s and stuff, I found that going to bars and clubs and all that stuff when we were single and everything, it really gave me a lot of anxiety. And if I wasn't driving that night, I needed some drinks to just feel like a normal person. Right? I didn't realize after that I'm highly empathic. I'm intuitive and I'm picking up the vibes of the people in the club. So
Yeah.
it makes sense why I felt anxiety.
Yeah.
But I found that I was a completely different person in the gym.
Mm,
That's my domain. That's where I
right.
had full confidence. My
Yeah.
my posture, the way it showed up, my way of being is completely different in the gym setting. People
Yeah.
come and ask me questions. I'm experienced, I'm knowledgeable in that space, even before the education,
Yeah.
right? So find a place where it's a fit for you, where you feel your most natural, most authentic self. Because also when it starts working, you're gonna want to be doing something that you have no problem doing.
Right.
Right. I find that the suburban retreats, the online co-working space for us, it's so natural and organic for us because it's the way we operate all the time. So like when we do it, it's like it's so easy to do this, right? And we barely have to prepare sometimes for some things because it's just our natural way of being. And I
Yeah.
get a lot too. A good sign too, for at least for me, is when we're in a space, we're meeting new people. It happened last night. Like he pauses and he goes, I love your energy.
Yeah.
Like and in a normal set of circumstances, like what does that really mean to a lot of people? But we know what that means, right? But
Yeah.
we're just in the same vibration. right? And because we found ourselves in a very aligned, alignment was part of
Yeah,
your topic today was we were very aligned with where we're at, the connection that brought us there. We know the person that brought us
yeah,
there, right? There's so many things that are in alignment, and
yeah,
you got to follow those clues.
yeah,
Follow those clues lead you to the ultimate place where you're gonna again produce more of the data and more of the numbers that you need and something to get excited about in your business. That's all the right kind of energy you want to have to be abundant, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. This is so good. Like, I want people to realize and remember that there are other options out there. And everybody knows, like, we talk about the DMs all the time, which is why we're not spending a ton of time on it today. But I talk about the DMs all the time. You guys know that that is like our number one go to in our business. We always do everything through personal connection. We do emails and stuff like that also, but I don't rely on it for creating genuine connection. That is more of a communication piece. It's more of a way for people to get to know, like, and trust us on a sort of higher level. But we live in the DMs in this business and we want to make sure that we are connecting with people. And 100% we are doing this no matter what. So even when we're doing networking, we're going to events, we're hosting events online or in person, we are still doing DMs all the time. So that is definitely like a big part. And if that's something that doesn't feel aligned and comfortable for you, of course, we want you to do the things that feel aligned, that feel easy, and all of that. But also, developing the skill to do DMs is massive, right? And I can tell you guys, hands down, even when you're at a different level, even when you're running paid ads, even when you're doing that stuff, you are going to want to have the skill of doing DMs and knowing how to connect with people there and knowing how to build relationships there and knowing how to move from being friends on your personal profile to getting people into your Facebook group to having a conversation to book a call. These are skills that you want to learn. So they might be tougher and they might be a little bit more out of your comfort zone and stuff like that. But I can tell you, hands down, 100%, you will feel so good when you understand and know how to do those DMs with confidence.
Yes, one thing I was thinking about as well, I wrote down blocks and barriers and stuff like that. And sometimes it gets really overwhelming when, you're following Alex Hermosi and he says, reach out to 100 people a day and stuff like that. I'm like, well, who? Me and what team is going to reach out to 100
Yeah.
people a day,
Yeah.
right? If you're doing zero a week, start with five.
Right.
Start with
Yeah.
anything, right?
Yeah.
And one thing to share is I can do it now when I'm in a groove, I could do them anywhere.
Yeah.
But when I'm in a slump where I haven't done it in a while, I'm trying to reach out to a new group or connect with people, I can't do it on my computer. It's too
Business.
boxed in, it's too busy, it's too formal, and it's stressful for me. I'll get up, I'll go eat cookies and chips and look for something to do, have a nap with the dog. I would do anything else but do it,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But the first step is to get the first one in and then get the first three, then the first five. So the way I did it once was I decided that I was just gonna make it a casual reach out touch point. And sometimes what's going on at that time of the year is a great way to start. For example, January.
Yeah.
Hey Mike, how's it going? Happy New Year. What's got you excited for 2025? It's been a long time. Love to connect. Done.
Done.
Right?
Yeah.
You might even voice it to them
Yeah.
rather than type it to them and or her or whoever it is you're reaching out to. What's neat is when they respond, you're like, oh, now you're making a connection to something coming back. And before you know it, you're doing it. Okay, I got this conversation going. Let's try two more,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Then what you can do is copy the message you just sent to the first person
Yeah.
and paste it. Now you're becoming,
Yeah.
you're creating a system around it, right? It's very organic, but also very intentional and creating a method, right? A system, right?
Yeah.
And one of my coaches used to say, create a system that you can actually document and give to somebody else when you hire somebody,
Yeah.
right? And say, this is what worked for me. Take that and build on it, right?
Yeah.
If you're hitting like 3 or 5 a day consistently, ask yourself, how do I build on this, right? I found too that I can't do certain things every single day. I like to do like maybe 10 on one day, right? And then do some other activity the other day, then maybe come back to it. And then you're getting replies by then, right? You kind of figure out different ways that works for you.
Yeah.
Also for me, I find I do it better on my cell phone in a park, or I've mentioned before, like while I'm waiting for my son's skates to be sharpened at the
Yeah. I love
shop,
that one.
I banged out five right
Right.
there, on Facebook. So
Yeah.
find ways to do it that just makes it work for you, because it's just like running into somebody at the store or something. Like
Yeah.
make it as casual and but formal enough that it makes sense and it's not super random. Like don't be weird and send random shit to people, but like be in the conversation of where you left off. You haven't talked to someone in 2 years, acknowledge that you haven't talked to
Right.
them. Don't come out and send them a link to your event and expect
Right.
them to understand what you're talking about or
Right.
even show up,
Yeah.
right? You have to pick it up from where the conversation is and move forward. As a complete stranger, have your way of opening that conversation with them. And usually you can script it. It's very easy. It's because you want to be efficient with your time. You don't want to type the same thing out over and over again.
Yeah.
Make it very easy for you to continue to build on the process.
Yeah, okay, this is so good. And also, this is one of the reasons why we created the online co-working space because sometimes when it's hard to do something, like for me, it might not be DMs now, but it might be accounting stuff, bookkeeping stuff, things I have to submit to my accountant, bookkeeper, whatever. And having the co-working schedule where I need to show up and I need to share what I'm working on. And I have to get on and say, I am doing my taxes right now. Right. And that's what I'm working on for the 90 minutes of that session that day. And then at the end, I get to say, I'm done. This is one of the most powerful ways to use becoming the CEO, co-working, because you can get stuff done that freaks you out, that isn't comfortable, that you don't like to do. Because when you declare it and you tell other people what you're working on, that's what you're going to work on. You're not going to go and eat cookies and chips and look in the cupboard and have a nap on the couch, right? You're going to do it because you just told 10 or 15 or 20 other people or more eventually that you're going to be doing this thing. And at the end, when you have to share what you've gotten done, you're not going to come back and say, I didn't do it. You're going to get it done. And
Yeah, the camera's gonna be on you. They can
yeah.
see if you're napping on the couch at Stella or
Yeah.
not.
Yeah. So this is one of the reasons that we created becoming the CEO. So you can get shit done that you hate doing and do it anyways, right? Until you're at a point where you can outsource it and get rid of it and all of that stuff. But in your business, there are always going to be things at any level that you don't like doing that have to be done. So that is actually one of the uses of it. And also, you could use your laser focus calls, which we are offering on Mondays. You can do 1-to-1 15-minute laser focus calls. And you could use that call to get direction and clarity on your DMs for the week. Who are you sending them to? What are you talking about? Even the scripting, like we can do that quickly in a 15-minute call. So that when you get to doing the DMs on the co-working call, you know exactly what you're doing. So this is like all the pieces that we're bringing together inside of that program, which again, we're going to be sending out all the emails and letting you guys know inside the Facebook group, more details and stuff like that. We'll probably talk about it a little bit more deeply tomorrow on day 5. And this is, a big part of the reason that we've created this so that people have a space to get shit done that they don't want to do, as well as just move forward and have clarity and be able to work fewer hours, but get the same or more done in that time, right? So you guys can create time freedom and not have to be working all day long and all that stuff. There's so many like powerful, amazing things going on inside of that program to help you guys move forward and not feel bogged down and not feel like you're working every second of the day.
Yeah, one last thing I could share as well with regards to the numbers and data and everything. We all have I would be it's not too far out there for me to say that for a lot of us we have certain barriers or triggers and stuff could be around the data, the numbers. There's a lot of accountability around those numbers too, right? So one of the things that we do every month or every so often we'll just, even inside multiple times in a month is like, what is happening right now? Like, do we have a very slow inflow of leads? What is, or is there a big wave of opportunity coming through? Like, what is happening right now? What have we been up to? right? What is working and what is not working,
Yeah.
right? And just like break it down at a very factual level because like we said earlier, we can't fully rely on our feelings. Feelings play a part of it. It does play a part of it. Like I mentioned, excitement,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah.
But without the data, we can default to the feelings that are just not going to be helpful,
Hmm.
right? But
And
when you do the
wrong decisions.
yeah, making wrong decisions, changing your mind too often, getting all like flaky,
Yeah.
right? But when you do the numbers and you might notice that say maybe you barely profited or you're down like you're off target by like 40% that last quarter or whatever. What my other coach used to say is like, Brian, it's just what is so right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It neither is or
Doesn't
isn't
mean anything.
anything right or wrong. It's just
Yeah.
now you have the data, even
Yeah.
debts, right?
Yeah.
You know what it is.
Yeah.
So you begin the process of
Yeah.
moving forward.
Yeah.
It's helpful to know if it's more than what you think it is, and it's helpful to know if it's less than what you think it is.
Yeah.
Whatever it is, it's still helpful because it's
Yeah.
data. That's what the data is for. And
Yeah.
then take a breath. We did it the other day where we looked at some data points the other day, and I had to like walk away from the computer for a second and go, okay, let me just like take a
Analyze.
moment here. And we actually purposely like I asked like we were kind of just winding down for the night, and I was like, I can't let this go right now. I need to just like be in this for a second. And then
Yeah.
it took a few minutes. We got into a problem solving mode. We got into the
Yeah.
next, and that would led to this big landslide of meeting a
Yeah.
whole bunch of more people and networking and stuff right
Yeah.
after that. We started solving the problem and working it, right? So
Yeah. I'm really
important.
happy that you brought this back because, looking at those numbers is really going to help us make the right decisions. Because I think one of the number one things that we see, not I think, I know, then one of the number one things that we see is people thinking they need more leads and they're not getting sales and things aren't happening and maybe they're not selling as much as they used to or whatever, and they think they need more leads, and what they actually need to do is engage more with the leads they already have. And this is a really big mistake that people make all the way up, right? This is not a starter level mistake, this is an everybody mistake, where we get caught up in getting more leads and more leads and more leads, and what you don't realize is you already have X number of people. I don't care if you have 50 or 100 followers on Instagram or 3,000. Those are actual people who are following you, right? Or who are connected to you or who are friends with you on Facebook or wherever your platform is. And a lot of the time we make the mistake of thinking we need more leads, which often means spending more money or spending a lot more time. And what we actually need to do is go back and dig into the leads we have. And the other common mistake that happens here is people will say things like, I don't have any engagement. And they have 300 people in their Facebook group. And maybe there isn't a lot of engagement, but that doesn't mean that these people are not paying attention. It doesn't mean that they don't want what you have. It might mean that they're not seeing it. It might mean they need another touch point. It might mean they need to get to know you better, right? I actually got on a call with someone last week who told me that her friend referred her to me. And I said, well, who's your friend? And she gave me the name. And I said, I don't even know who that is. And I know my people. I know the names. I recognize them. I know who's in my group. I know the names. I do not know this name. And she was like, well, she loves you. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what is happening, right? Here I am thinking that however many people are not seeing, not paying attention, not caring, not whatever. Meanwhile, this person loves me, right? So I don't even know. That feels weird to say, but that's nice to hear. And it's someone who I have no idea who they are. So the point is you guys just never know, right? And I always emphasize this with our clients. I don't want you guys to rely on engagement and people liking and commenting on your stuff because that doesn't necessarily equate to clients, and it doesn't necessarily equate to who is following you and liking you and engaging all of your stuff even if they're not actually doing something. So that's why we're so deep in the DMs, because if I start DMing people all of a sudden there's all these people who I'm having conversations with. And meanwhile, I was looking at the Facebook group that had 2 or 3 or 500 people going, oh my God, I have nobody and I need more people and no one's engaging. And now I have 300 people to DM, right? So it's just so important that we know the numbers so that we can understand where the gap actually is, right? Or it's the same thing with closing. People will say, "Oh, I can't sell anybody. No one's saying yes, da da da." Well, how many calls have you had? 3. Well, it's possible that you're not going to close 1 in 3. Maybe you're newer. Maybe you haven't sold in a long time. Maybe you're trying a different offer. Maybe it's a different price point. Maybe you're only going to sell 1 in 5 or 1 in 8 or 10,
Yeah.
So we have to be really careful about what we're saying that isn't working. And that's why I love the data, because when you go back to the data, we had a bit of a dip in our months, January and February this year, not as, not where they have been for the last while, a little bit of a dip. This happens. And we're looking at it and we're like, what the hell? Because these things are going really well. And what we noticed was that our show rate dropped. Now, usually for calls, when we book calls, we have a show rate somewhere around 80%. The last couple months, it's been more like 50. And so now, instead of having a freak out about it, we have to go, okay, why was it 50%? What happened this month? Right? What are the changes? What are the differences? Do we need to change something or not? Because just because it happened one time doesn't mean you need to change it, right? It's been consistent for months and months, and actually over 2 years, this has been consistent. So because it happened for 1 or 2 months doesn't mean we're changing it necessarily. So we have to be able to look at it. We can't just go, oh, we had fewer sales. We have to look and go, okay, which thing was the problem, right? Oh, the show rate's the problem. Okay. Now we can decide if we're going to change it or if we're not. And then we can decide how we're going to move forward. So that's some like transparency for you guys. But this is what happens. Again, doesn't matter what level your business is at. There's always going to be dips. There are always going to be patterns of months. Like, turns out January last year wasn't our best month either, right? So sometimes there are some patterns that you can start to look at, and you can actually start to plan for those as well in terms of your numbers, right? You can start to plan to do more activity in the months that are typically better, not waiting for the months that are shitty to do more activity. Do more activity in the months that are usually better for you and get more clients and stack them up. And then you don't have to worry as much about getting clients in the quieter months, typically summer, hint, hint, AKA get your clients now, right? And then you can just serve over the summer. Maybe you gain a few, but you primarily serve, and then you go back into sales mode into Q3, right? So again, knowing the numbers is really going to help you make the right decisions. It's also going to help you start to see patterns month over month, year over year, and it will then help you be able to plan ahead and know what you need to do and be able to maximize the months that do work the best rather than try to play catch up in the months that don't.
Yeah. Two things I can share here is
Okay.
one is you produce results based on where you're putting your attention,
Absolutely.
right? And our what we realized in our meetings after those 2 months was our attention had shifted,
Yeah.
not in a negative way, but
Yeah.
our attention shifted to what we were getting excited about in our space with co-working and all that stuff,
Yeah. For
and
sure.
slightly took our attention off of the other, regular revenue generating activities.
Yeah.
Um, and and be aware of this as entrepreneurs or the CEO, like be aware of where your attention is going. Like if you're
Yeah.
spending like 80% of your attention is going to creating content or creating like your vault or whatever it is, but there's nobody to even share this vault with,
Mm-hmm.
you know, yes, it's productive in the sense that you're producing something that can be monetizable, it can be useful and valuable to your
Yeah.
clients, but you don't have any clients to share this with yet. So your attention's going there, and at the end of the month, when you run your numbers, you're like, why hasn't anything happened? It's like
Yeah.
that's where your attention was,
I just want to jump
right?
in here quickly, if that's okay.
Yeah.
um, that this is why it's so important to do goal setting every month, which is also one of the sessions that we're doing inside Becoming the CEO, because we need to be accountable to what happened. And you can't go into another month not knowing why, whatever results happen, happen. You can't look at a month that's happened and go, well, I don't know what happened there. That's not
Yeah.
a CEO level way to be. You have
Mhm.
to look at it, and you may not be right all the time, but you have to be able to analyze what happened and go, okay, our attention was more here, show rate was down, this other thing happened. Maybe you are out of alignment for some reason with the offer or the avatar or whatever, but you cannot walk out of a month that has already happened not knowing why it went the way it went, whether it went well or whether it didn't. And so that goal setting session where you're going to do review, reflect, assess first before you set your goals for the next month, you absolutely, as the CEO, need to take ownership over why the month ended up the way that it did.
Yeah, that's why over here we don't erase the month. When the month is over, we don't erase it until we have a discussion about what
Yeah.
happened,
Yeah.
right? Just to share one quick challenge too is it's Thursday right now. I don't know if you're watching this on Thursday, but like between now and say tomorrow afternoon, what is one data point that you could impact in the next 48 hours? Like whether
Yeah.
it be your numbers, whether it be your lifestyle, like your self-care practices, maybe been blowing your own health practices off, your workouts or whatever. And pick any data point. We're gonna play a little game. Pick any data point and what would be a small win in the next 48 hours
Love that.
for that line or for that activity? And then what would be a small but high yielding move you can make in the next 48 hours to move the needle on that data point.
Love
Just
that.
to show you, just to prove to you what you're capable of. And
Yes.
that you can just take full and complete control over the situation and just move it where it needs to go.
Love it.
So that's my challenge for the next 48 hours.
I love that. So I'm just going to give you guys a few quick examples and then we're going to wrap. So you could go and look for some networking events in your area and book one, pay for it, get your slot. You could find some online networking events that happen or membership groups or Facebook groups that have this. You could go and get your workout in. Maybe you plan to do one today and one tomorrow. You could track the data for February if you haven't done it yet. Go back and figure out what your numbers were. There are so many things, but those are a few that you guys can kind of take away. You could also plan your next event, take a date, actually put it on the calendar and start sending some DMs even, right? Lots of
Yeah.
stuff you could do. I love this challenge. Love it.
All right, let's do
Okay.
it.
Okay. And then we got to go because people are going to be at our house in like 20 minutes. So thank you guys so much for hanging out with us. We hope this was valuable. We are trying to move forward with actions that are going to align with our vision and our results and make shit happen. And looking forward to tomorrow, where we're going to wrap up with some different ways to know that you are ready to outsource, because that's another way to up your productivity. And then we're also going to talk about the Becoming the CEO program. So thank you again, Brian. Amazing. Always great
Yep.
conversation and bringing up some really great points. And looking forward to tomorrow.
All right, let's go.